Lovely to see you. Okay, have we got everybody in the room? Pretty much. So, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the next in our series of ANLP virtual webinars, and the topic is all about resilience today. So, we're very excited to introduce Kat Trebilco, who used to be a steward at the conference and is now a fully fledged NLP trainer, who definitely does a lot of work around the beautiful countryside that you live in. So I'm delighted to hand over to Kat for her session on resilience.
Thank you very much, Karen, and I'm delighted to be here. So yeah, my name is Kat Trebilco. I'm an NLP trainer and a coach as well, and I specialize in doing outdoor coaching. So my big passion in life is taking people out into nature, out into the mountains, and doing some coaching out there. Which is where the topic of resilience comes in. So often when we're coaching, resilience comes up quite a lot. It's something that we need more and more in everyday life at the moment, particularly with lots of things in the news that can test our resilience. Lots of things going on in our personal life with things like cost of living challenges and that kind of stuff. We need resilience ourselves. And then it's also something that if you're a coach working with clients, then it might be a topic that comes up. So that's the session for today. A little bit more about me. So as I mentioned, I'm a trainer and a coach. I also work sometimes as an expedition leader. So I take people away to exciting locations, like I've led to Everest Base Camp, I've led up Kilimanjaro, I've guided in the Arctic as well. Often a test of people's resilience in these situations, and part of my role as the leader is to help them with their own resilience, and again apply all of my learning to myself to help make sure that I'm resilient in those situations as a leader when challenges come up. Currently going through a time where I'm having to show quite a lot of resilience. I've just moved house 2 weeks ago. I've moved up to the beautiful countryside in Glencoe in Scotland, so as well as moving house, I've taken over a business. It's a small holiday park, eventually with the idea of turning it into a coaching kind of retreat venue, while also trying to look after a 2-year-old toddler, and I'm currently 27 weeks pregnant as well. So there is a lot going on in my life. So I'm looking forward to running this session really as a reminder of resilience for myself. So the topic of resilience, as we go through the session, I'll be giving some input, some sort of thoughts and theories about resilience. I'll be asking for some queries or for some responses as we go through. And you can use the chat box to kind of type comments and responses to those. And then at any point, if you've got a question, you can either use the raise hand function, and Cash is going to help monitor the questions, and we'll either save them up to the end, or if they're pertinent at the time, then I've given him full permission to just interrupt me and jump in and say, you've got a question, Kat, and to read it out. And then towards the end of the session, I'll open up a bit of time for questions then as well. The session itself involves quite a bit of not necessarily interaction, but trying things out that I'm suggesting, ways that you can improve your resilience. So I really encourage you to jump in and give it a go. Yeah, give it a go first, and then sort of think about it and judge it afterwards. Often our learning from these things comes from just trying them, and if we think about it too much, we're like, oh, I'm not going to do that, that sounds a bit funny. Jump in, give it a go, and then decide afterwards if it's something that you're going to take forwards or not. There's quite a lot to cover, so hopefully there'll be something for everybody in there, and I'm sure there'll be some things where you're like, that bit's not for me, and that's okay. So the first thing that I want to ask you all is, what is resilience? It's one of these words that gets bandied about all over the place. Oh, you need more resilience. Oh, I'm not feeling very resilient today. Actually, what is it? So if you want to just take a moment to think about that and type into the chat box just some thoughts. What is resilience? What do we mean by it? If there was a dictionary definition, what might that be? And I can see some comments just coming in there. Let's have a look. The ability to bounce back after a setback, absolutely. Adapting well, having staying power, yeah, Suzanne. Yeah, Linda, that bouncing back. Referring to that maintenance of and or quick recovery of mental well-being in response to adversity. Yeah. Ability to brace yourself for life. Absolutely. Yeah, lots of great comments coming in, and I think you can all see those to read, flick through then. And the next question that I wanted to ask you again, just to think about, what kind of situations do we need resilience in? What type of situations do we need resilience? Be all sorts of different things. Have a think, where in your life might you need resilience? Again, just having a flick through the comments. Yeah, having resilience through change. Yeah, Lorianne, through everything. Absolutely, through everything. When your nervous system is challenged, yet, so we're going to talk a little bit about the nervous system. Emma, yeah, great comment. In nearly everything. Jaff, yeah, work, family, friends, just some examples. Suzanne, every morning getting up. That is a woman after my own heart. Every morning getting up. I don't have an alarm clock anymore. I have a toddler, which is normally quite a pleasant way of waking up, because you'll just hear, "Mummy, I want to cuddle." But yeah, every morning getting up, getting that resilience. Every day, any life challenges, and dealing with the unexpected, Leonie, absolutely. So lots and lots of comments. Thank you for all of those coming in. I'm not going to read them all out, but you get the kind of general gist of things. So I'm going to have a look at a dictionary definition of resilience. There's 3. My absolute favorite thing is dictionary.com. So these are the 3 dictionary definitions. You can see them up on the board here. So the first one is talking about materials. So the ability of a material to return to its original form or position after it's been bent, compressed, or stretched. Now that is talking about things like metals, plastics, and that kind of thing. It's materials, but actually it's such a good metaphor for what it feels like when we need resilience in our own life. We feel bent, we feel compressed, we feel stretched. All of those words are really great metaphors for what it feels like when we don't have resilience or when we're in need of resilience. So although it's talking about materials, it felt really resonant with me. The next one is about people, and it's that ability of a person to adjust to or recover from an illness or adversity or life changes. So just as you were putting in your comments, any kind of big changes, any kind of adversities, challenges that we face, that's when we need resilience most. And the last one is talking about kind of systems resilience. So we're all part of systems, and those systems will have resilience to them. So whether that is working for an employer and part of an organization, that organization will need resilience to deal with things. We're all part of the kind of country that we live in, whether that, I live in Scotland, or whether that's England or the UK as a whole. We, as a country, our system, our organization needs resilience to deal with some of the things that are going on in the world at the moment. So yeah, the ability of a system or organization to respond readily to a crisis or disruptive process. And again, that's quite a good metaphor for what it can feel like in our own life sometimes, a crisis or disruptive process. So these are some of the dictionary definitions. And what you'll notice about them is not one of them says that nothing bad ever happens, that resilience means, oh, life is beautiful and wonderful and everyone's just ticking along all tickety-boo and skipping around under rainbows and sunshine. What they're saying is, it happens, life happens, adversity happens. Having resilience is that ability to move on from it, to either bounce back to how things were before, or a phrase I really like is the ability to bounce forward, to adapt to what the new situation is. So it's not that you're just going to forget that whatever challenge happened and go back to how things were. It's that you're going to adapt to it, to change to it, to incorporate it into your life, and to move forwards with that challenge now being part of you, whether that's a continuing challenge or whether that's a challenge that has finished now, but that you've learned from. You can take some learning from it, and you're never going to go back to who you were before, but you can almost bounce forward. So there's this kind of metaphor around, moving on, bouncing forwards or bouncing back as well. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about resilience. And for me, just again, you can see it coming out with some of the comments there when I asked about what type of situations you need it in. For me, there's 2 different types of resilience. There's resilience right now, in the moment, oh shit, stuff is happening and I need to deal with it right now. And that can be all sorts of things, you know, work challenges, or just coming across a big, I don't know, a big car accident in the road or something, or, you know, something's just happened that you need to deal with. That's one type of in the moment resilience. The other type for me is around resilience over time. So longer term resilience. And that can be when you're dealing with things like maybe a long-term health problem. Perhaps you're caring for somebody that needs care, whether that's a parent or a partner or children or whatever, where, you know, over time you're having to keep up this level of resilience. Some people might find that in their job, if they're going through a period in their job that they're not particularly enjoying. It can be anything over time that needs resilience, or sometimes it's lots of little things, that in moment things, but that just keep happening. And it just feels like life is wearing you down, and you need to keep your resilience reserves up and going, if you like, to be able to just keep functioning and keep focusing on life. So for me, they're those two types. We're going to start today by looking at in the moment resilience, and then if there's time at the end, then we'll give some thought to how you can maintain and manage your longer term resilience as well. Cash, I'm just going to have a quick check in. Is there any questions that have come in so far as I've been talking?
No, there's just a comment from Laurie, and super interesting, inviting me to think about parts in NLP and your shared definition of resilience.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, parts is, you know, in NLP, we are made up of lots of different parts. And there might be some parts of your life you're feeling resilient in, and some parts you're not feeling resilient in. Perhaps there's some modeling of yourself you can do there as well. So yeah, absolutely relevant to parts. It's my first time using flip charts on Zoom, and it's really good because it's sheltering all of the moving boxes that are unpacked behind me in my bedroom just now. The next thing I invite you to think about is we're going to spend a bit of time looking at in the moment resilience. So that's that situation where something's just happened and it's that, oh, I need to deal with this. What happens to you? What happens to your mind and body system when you're in that situation? And again, just type in some comments into the chat. When something's just happened, you need to deal with it in the immediate moment. What happens to you? Yeah, lots of comments coming in. Cortisol and adrenaline rise. Freezing, feeling a bit stuck is quite a common reaction. Feeling a bit anxious, having a stress response. Your flight or fright response, fight or flee response, yeah. Feeling overwhelmed. Silence, adrenaline, lots and lots of different responses. Often it is us getting into that flight, fight, freeze or appease response. Every time I do this talk, they seem to have added a new one onto the end. Fight or flight is the common one, where you feel you're either getting ready to fight or you're getting ready to run away. And then some other reactions that can also cause is your freeze response. So that kind of silence, the deer in the headlights, like, don't know what to do, don't know what to say. Or your appease response can also come out, and that's sometimes where we just kind of want the situation to go away by appeasing it, by saying, yes, I'll just do that, yes, I'll just do that for you, and then you come out afterwards going, well, hang on, I don't want to do any of those things, why did I agree to them? It's just the quickest way to end the situation at the time. So we get into our fight, flight, freeze or appease response, and that's where our nervous system can come in, and it manifests itself physically in us. So we might feel, you get kind of clammy palms or sweaty palms, you might feel your heartbeat increasing, you might feel that kind of anxiety, butterflies in your stomach, you know, tingling down your spine, all sorts of responses that people have when that happens. But we can tell that we're in our fight, flight, freeze or appease response when we're feeling some of those things. The best way to be resilient in that moment, you cannot think straight when you're in that state. You cannot put together a coherent, logical plan of action when you're in that state. Your brain has been hijacked, essentially, an amygdala hijack, we call it. That part of your brain that just hijacks all of your rational thinking into immediate adrenaline-filled response. So the quickest way to be resilient in that situation is to try and regain your logical, rational thinking, because that's where a sort of sensible plan of action to move forwards is going to come from. And fair enough, if we are back in our caveman days and we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, then absolutely, you don't need rational thinking, you're just going to run away. And that instinct will still maintain. But for most modern day situations, that isn't what we need. It's some kind of plan of action. So we're going to look at different ways that you can change your state, manage your state to recover your rational and logical thinking. And we're going to have a play around with some really, really practical things that you can do to get into a state of resilience at that moment. And I'm going to talk through the state change model. Lots of you I know are already familiar with NLP. This will probably be familiar to you. There might be some people on the call that haven't seen this before. So I'm just going to talk through it, and then we'll jump into actually doing some experiential learning and giving a few things out. In fact, we'll start with one just now, just to kind of connect in with our mind and body and how much they are linked and how much they can control and influence each other, if you like. So one of the NLP presuppositions is that your mind and body are linked, and if you change one, you'll change the other. So we're just going to have a quick play around with that now. So I invite you, just where you are in your chair, to take on the body language of somebody who's having a really, really rubbish day. Okay, so that could be slumping forwards, head in hands, hand on chin, any kind of body language that indicates that somebody is having a really, really, really rubbish day. Okay, keeping your body in that position. I just want you to bring to mind a really, really happy memory. Something really happy. Something that would normally bring you with joy. Now, is anyone sat in that position feeling overwhelming loads of joy just now? No, I'm seeing lots and lots of heads shaking. It's really hard. Yes, so Jaff puts in the comments, no, it's really hard to feel that kind of happiness when your body language is giving you all of the signals that you're not feeling in a happy place. Okay, let's try something different. Shake that off. We don't want that feeling lasting over us. Give yourselves a shake. This time, I'm not going to stand up because you won't be able to see me, but feel free to stand up if you want to. Stand up, reach your hands up into the air, and give me your absolute best jazz hands that you can. Okay, look up to the ceiling and plant a huge, great big smile on your face. Really, really, really big smile. You're going to feel absolutely ridiculously stupid doing it, but you're going to plant a big smile on your face with jazz hands. And now I just want you to try and find just a little sad memory, something, I don't know, little niggly memory that's been annoying you recently. Okay, does anyone feel really, really annoyed by that memory when you've got a big smile on your face and your jazz hands? Probably not. You might feel a little bit niggled by it, but it's probably not as annoying when your body language is telling you that you're full of joy and energy and enthusiasm for life. Okay, so your body has a huge, huge impact on how you feel on the inside. Your mind and your body are linked. If you can change your body, it will help change your thought processes. And yes, as Emma says, just moving feels good sometimes. Part of the reason I do walking coaching is to get people kind of out of a still stuckness state and into a moving state. So just doing something different with your body is one way of changing the way that you are thinking or feeling about something. So I'm going to talk through this model. Some of you will know it as the state change model. Some of you might know it as the Mercedes model because of the shape of the Mercedes logo. Some of you may not know it at all. So I'm going to talk through it just briefly to begin with. Your state, and in this case, we're going to be talking about a state of resilience. Your state is made up of three different things. So first of all, you have your internal state. This is your feelings, essentially. This is what you're feeling on the inside. And this is made up of sensations. So things like that butterfly feeling in your stomach, might be sensations in your skin. You sometimes hear people say, oh, it made my skin crawl, or oh, it gave me shivers. These are sensations that are happening inside your body. It's made up of, and then your emotions and your feelings. So emotions are kind of chemical reactions that happen in your brain that can cause you to feel a certain thing. And our feelings are then our response to it. So the chemicals that happen in people's bodies are the same in every person's body. The way our body interprets them into feelings will be completely individual for each body. So these are parts of the things that make up your internal state, your feelings. This is what's going on for you. The next part of your state is made up by your internal representations. This is your thoughts. This is more what's going on in your mind. This is the pictures that you're making, the sounds that you're making, the feelings that you're making, the internal representation of those things, your smells and tastes as well. And then, as well as all this information we're taking in from reality and making our kind of pictures and thoughts and feelings about it, we also add on to it our self-talk. So this is only something that only we can hear. It's that little voice on your shoulder that is chatting away to you, giving you a running commentary of what's going on. That can either be really, really useful and really, really supportive to you. More often than not in Western society, I don't know, around the world perhaps as well, often it's not that helpful. And it's saying things like, oh, that was a really rubbish thing to say. Why did you say that? Oh, how stupid. Oh, well, you're rubbish at doing this. You're really crap at doing that. And it can be not that helpful. And that's another way that it can kind of test our resilience. If we're not even being kind to ourselves, nobody else is going to be being kind to us. So we kind of can work on our self-talk, and that's one of the things that we'll look at as we move through the session. So your state, we've got it made up of your feelings, your thoughts, and then the last bit down here is around your behaviors. And this is both things that are happening in your body, essentially. So your physiology, things that are happening like that racing heartbeat, like the sweaty palms and things, they will be being caused by some of the other reactions. It's the gestures you're making, it's your body positioning, as we've just played around with. And then it's also things like your breathing. Now, I realize breathing is part of your physiology. It's something that is happening automatically, but it's also something that we can take control of and do something to change. And I would say we take nothing else away from this session. The power of taking a deep breath in that moment when the shit has really hit the fan is the first thing you can do to start recovering your rational thinking and getting yourself into a state of resilience. So these are all of the different things that your state is made up of. For the next little bit of the session, that's what we're going to play around with, is ways that you can change your state to get yourself into a position of feeling more resilient. And it's one of these things, it's like a spiral. You only just need that tiny little start of feeling resilient to go, oh, you know what, I can deal with this. And then it starts to spiral into, you know what, I really can deal with this. And then that's where that feeling of resilience comes from. Okay, so the first thing, as I mentioned, breathing. We all know it. I know you know it already, but sometimes it's just really worth reminding yourself of it. So as we move through the next few bits of the session, I'm going to ask you to bring to mind a situation where you feel like you would like some more resilience. It could be a challenge that you're facing in your life. It could be a project that you're working towards. It could be a health situation that's going on for you. Any situation where you feel like you could do with some more resilience. Just bring that to mind as we work through some of the next bits that I'm going to go through, because it will give you a real life topic to actually think about this. So first of all, just bring that topic to your mind. I'm not going to ask you to share it at any point in this session, so it can be absolutely anything you want it to be. Bring that to mind. Plant your feet on the ground, just where you're sat. Put your body position into a nice upright position. And I'm just going to encourage you in your own time, I'll do it as well, but in your own time, just to take 3 really good, long, deep breaths, fully in and fully out deep breaths as you think about this slightly challenging issue that you've got going on for yourselves at the moment. So in your own time, breathing in. And a nice long breath out. And in. And a nice long breath out. One more full up. Just check in with yourself. How do you feel now, having done that? Now, I'm not expecting the whole issue to suddenly have gone away and be changed massively, but just check in with yourself. How do you feel now? And again, feel free to write it in the chat box. A little more space, says John. Yeah. I can tell myself I've stopped talking quite as quickly as I did. I feel a bit calmer. Yeah. Easy, calmer and clearer, says Nikki. Feeling lighter, Leonie. Yeah. It's such a simple thing to do. And it's something that we just forget. We all know it, but we forget to do it. So sometimes just the simple power of taking even one, 3 is good, but 1 would do. 1 long, deep breath helps us get that clearer mind, that clearer level of focus, that calmer. Someone's just said their brain's got more oxygen. Yeah, that's what your brain needs to think, is to have that little bit more oxygen in it. So absolutely, the power of a deep breath. It's so simple, it's so basic, but it's really, really, really important to remember. And if you can do the kind of feet grounding, sitting up straight thing as well, even better. That just starts to tell your body, I'm ready to deal with this. I'm ready to cope with whatever's coming. Yeah. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is around, again, linked to body language and linked to some research that's been done around power poses. So this is all about putting your body in a position to cope with what's coming next. So the research I'm going to talk about is a TED talk by a lady called Amy Cuddy. You may have watched it before. It's really relevant to NLP, and it's all about, as I say, the power of your body language. Now, the research that Amy talks about in her TED talk is around, it's a fake situation, but as realistic as they could make it, was around some interviews that people were going for. So they were setting themselves up for a kind of fake but realistic job interview. And the participants were split into 2 groups. One group were told to sit down as they were preparing to go into the interview. For the 5 minutes before, they were told to sit down and do what people do before they go for interviews, which is to sit kind of head in hands, drumming their fingers, kind of, you know, panicking and thinking about what they're going to say. And generally sitting in a slumped position, similar to we did towards the beginning of the session. Other group were invited to stand in what they called a power pose for 5 minutes before they went into their interview. And by power pose, I'm going to stand up and just adjust my screen as I do. Again, I can't quite get far enough away, but you'll get the idea. Power poses were, the famous one was the Wonder Woman pose. That's hands on hips, feet nicely grounded, Wonder Woman or Superman, and a head held high, a really strong bodily pose, demonstrating kind of power and confidence as they went. Another one, I'll just squat down to do it so you can see me. Another one would be arms above head, a kind of victory pose like people do when they win a race. And interestingly, the research shows even blind people who have never ever seen another human being win a race and go, yes, as they cross the finish line, they will do it too. It's something innate in our system that makes us put our arms up and celebrate in victory, that makes us feel more powerful, more confident, more, I don't know, glory filled or something. It's something really innate in our system. And you'll see that happen all over the animal kingdom. When animals want to feel powerful or impressive, perhaps in a mating ritual, or, you know, males fighting off against each other, they will do things to make themselves bigger. So human beings will put their arms up in the air or out to the side. Elephants, you'll find, will flap their ears when they're trying to be intimidating to make themselves bigger. You'll see birds doing mating rituals will have their wings out, doing a kind of funky, sexy, powerful little dance. Lots and lots of animals will do things to make themselves bigger. Bears will kind of raise up and wave their arms around as well. So it's really innate in the animal kingdom that those body language poses make us feel more powerful, more confident, if you like, and in some cases more resilient as well. So half of the participants were encouraged to take a power pose, so the Wonder Woman pose, or standing up with their arms in the air, to take a pose that made them feel powerful and confident for 5 minutes before they went into this interview situation. That was the preparation they were given. They were then shown in, and there was a panel of 3 interviewers that would interview them, ask them a series of questions, and they were blind to the study. They didn't know what the participants had done. They didn't know what was being tested. At the end of the interview, they were asked to rate the interviewees on their kind of confidence or ability to do the job, and on their passion, I think it was, for the job. And they were asked to rate them on a number of different factors. And all of the candidates that had taken a power pose just scored much better on competence, much better on confidence and competence, sorry, and much better on all sorts of other things like empathy, passion for the job, kindness, things that weren't even relevant to a power pose. They just scored more highly on all of these different factors. So really, really interesting study. And obviously the researchers that knew which groups had done what preparation could see that it was related to this body position that they'd taken. So Amy Cuddy became quite famous with this TED talk for this Wonder Woman pose, but it can be used in the topic of resilience as well. So finding a pose that makes you feel strong, confident and resilient. And it might be one of the ones I've suggested, like the Wonder Woman or the kind of victory pose. It could be something else, even just standing up straight with your arms down by your side. I know if I've got a difficult phone call or something I'm about to make, my favorite is a warrior pose from yoga. That kind of, standing arms out straight, legs out wide, looking forwards with real strength and focus. So if you've got a yoga pose or something that you do that makes you feel that, then great. And I will do that for a few minutes or even just 30 seconds or something before I pick up the phone to speak to someone that I'm dreading speaking to, or before I come and do a presentation like this. It might be something that I do. So I'm going to invite you to try it now. Again, if you've got space to stand up where you are, bring that challenge to mind. You can use the same one you were thinking about earlier or a different one. Bring that challenge to mind and then just put your body into, we'll call it a power pose, but it can be any pose that makes you feel resilient. Okay, so try it with me now. Oh, thanks, we're on grid view so we can see a few people doing it. And again, if you really don't want to be watched doing these things, then feel free to turn your video off, but it is good just to see around the room what different people are doing. So whatever pose you're in, make sure your feet are nicely planted, grounded into the floor, that your shoulders are kind of back and down, that you're standing in a way that makes you feel really powerful, really resilient, really confident. And as you do, just bring that challenge to mind, that challenge where you'd like some more resilience, and just stand in that pose, lapping up all of the feelings it gives you. Remembering to take some deep breaths as well at this point. If it's the kind of situation that needs some movement, if you want to give the air a few punches or something like that as well, feel free to put that in. Deirdre, I can see you going for it there, good stuff. Yeah, just anything that makes you feel like, you know what, I've got this, I can cope with this, I can do it. It's your body language giving you those signals of, yes, I've got this, I can do it. Okay, good. Take a seat. And again, I just love to read some comments in the chat box about how people found doing that. Again, really simple. None of this is rocket science. It's all simple. Yeah, Emma says a lovely reminder to change state. John says it's uplifting. Again, really simple stuff, but it can just really help changing your body position into something that tells you that I have all the resilience I need, can be really helpful. Andalib says energy. Lorian says interesting how being in the power pose, my breathing was already slow. Yeah, so it can, that change of body language position can also influence your breathing without you needing to think about it. And is anyone feeling a little bit more resilient about their challenge as they did that? Yeah, a few thumbs up and a few nods of the head. Brilliant. The next one we're going to do is a kind of act as if. So those of you that are familiar with NLP, you'll know that phrase. You can just act as if you had all of the resilience, all of the confidence, all of the resources, all of the everything that you need to deal with this situation. Now for this one, you can do it sitting down. It probably works a little bit better stood up. And if you've got space in whatever office or living room or kitchen or bedroom that you're sitting in, then feel free to walk around as we do this. Just make sure that you can still hear my instructions, but do wander around the room. So what you're going to do is just start walking, thinking about your challenging situation. And then as you're walking, you're going to change the way that you're walking, whether that's the speed, the posture, anything about your walk. You're going to change it to walk as if you had all the resilience and all the everything you needed to deal with this problem, to cope with it, to solve it, whatever. Okay. So if you want to take part in this, stand up now and have a walk around your space. It doesn't matter where you go, just whatever little space you've got to do it. If you don't have room to walk around where you are, that's fine too. Just kind of sit down and put your body language in a position that tells you, I've got everything I need. I've got all the resilience and all of the everything. But if you're walking, take a walk around and then change your body language wherever you are, walking or sitting. Change your body language, change your walk to act as if you had everything you need to deal with it. Okay. Already I can see somebody's walk's got a little bit more swagger going on there. Often I find when I do this in a room full of people, the speed of the walk picks up, shoulders are back, people walk with a bit more purpose and a bit more focus. Some people might slow down, a bit more ponderous, as though they've been rushing into action and now they're slowing down to think about it a little bit more. And just as whether you're walking or sitting, whatever you're doing just now, add in a self-talk phrase. So add in something you can say to yourself. You're all on mute. Say it out loud if you want to, or say it inside your own head if you want to. Add a self-talk phrase that could help you with this situation. It might be things like, I've got this, I can do this, keep on plodding through, just take one step at a time. Any kind of little mantra or little phrase that you can add to yourself, to this situation, that might be kinder than what you might have been saying to yourself before. So yeah, Lorian says, let's do this. Anything like that can just help that self-talk change from perhaps something a little bit negative and dragging you down, excuse me, into something more supportive, more energetic, more resilient. Okay, and then come and take a seat. And again, I'd love to hear just in the chat box anybody's phrases. If it is to be, it's up to me. Love it, Deirdre. Yep, we're the only ones that can solve our own problems sometimes. That's a great phrase. Any other phrases, feel free to share them in the chat box as we go through. Okay, I'm on this. Power walking in my head. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, and even just the mental imagery of it, doing it, you're starting to change your internal representations. Even just if you're not able to get up and walk because it's a work situation or something where it's not appropriate for you to walk around, even if you had that mental image, you're doing something to change your state. You're changing one of your internal representations, and it only takes a tiny tweak in any one of these boxes. It only takes a tiny little tweak to start that spiral of feeling more resilient. So even if you can't do something physical with your body, say you're driving in the car or something, there's the limited amount of what you can do. You can start to change some of your pictures in your head or your self-talk. So I've had some others come in. I have my resources. Andalib says that. Sarah, in the words of the song, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Absolutely. Linda, I'd like to say God is able. That's a good one. That's not one I've heard before. So yeah, lots of different things, and it will change with the situation. It will change with the moment. But coming up with a self-talk phrase can really help. Again, this is all really simple, basic NLP stuff that we should know, we do know, but we just often don't apply it to ourselves in the moment. So all different ways we can change our state to be more resilient. Now, the next one that we're going to do, bear with me, it's a little bit playful, I would say. And again, in the spirit of the session, I recommend jumping into it, giving it a go. And I would say I get probably around a 50-50 response of people going, oh my God, I love that, I'm going to do it. And about 50% of people going, thanks for that, Kat, but I can't see me doing that. And both of those reactions are okay. I'm going to put it out there as another option that you might choose to do to change your state that is a little bit more playful, if you like. So often what I've been asking you to do so far is, put your body language in the position of someone who feels resilient. Well, if you're in the situation and you're not feeling resilient, that's quite a jump of the imagination to be able to go, well, what does a resilient person sound like and feel like and say to themselves? And you almost have to get your rational thinking before you can do that action. With this one, it's simple. We're going to channel the animal kingdom, if you like. So there are certain animals that will have characteristics that will make you go, that's the kind of animal I need to be in this situation. This comes up in every single culture, has stories, myths, legends, fables that feature animals that have certain characteristics. So you'll get the kind of brave lion and the wise old owl and the cunning fox and these kind of things. Now, these happen because we as human beings put these characteristics onto animals based on something that they are showing us or doing in their everyday animal life. So we're going to borrow from that as a really easy mental image to go, you know what, I just need to be a bit more lion in this situation, or a bit more bear or something. Okay. Some of the learning from this happens both from doing it, but also from watching other people do it. So the way that we're going to do this next bit of the session, I'm going to split the group in half. And I mean, we're going to do it twice. So you'll both get a chance to watch, and both groups will get a chance to do if you want to. And again, if you're really not comfortable being watched as you do this, that's fine. Just switch your camera off for that period of time. If you are comfortable being watched, then great, because somebody else will be able to watch what happens to your body as you do it. And again, I'm not going to ask you to share any personal situations. It will literally be watching you as you do this to see what you can observe in somebody else. Okay, so do what you're comfortable with. If your name, your first name, begins A to M in the alphabet, you're going to be watchers first. And if your name begins with, test of my alphabet skills here, N to Z, you're going to be doers first, okay? And the whole essence of this is, first of all, we're going to bring to mind that challenging situation. Again, if you've got room in your space where you are, take a walk. And you're going to walk thinking about that challenging situation from one end of the room to the other. You're then going to channel an animal. Think of an animal that has everything you need to solve this situation. What I'm not asking you to do, is to slither across the floor like a snake, or crawl around sniffing your partner's backside like a dog, or, you know, pouncing on something like a lion. Now, I'm not asking you to be an animal. What I am asking you to do is just channel some of the essence of that animal. Okay? So just, you'll still be walking like a human being, but you might just be walking slightly differently. Okay. So if your name begins with A to M, I invite you to watch some other people. Again, this might be a good time to put it on grid view if it's not already cached, just to unspotlight me so that people can see somebody else. And it doesn't matter if 5 people are watching one person and somebody else isn't being watched. But if you're A to M, you're a watcher. If you're an N to Z, now's your time for doing. Okay, so if you're a doer, N to Zs, stand up now. There's a few. I can see a few different people standing up. Lots of people with their cameras off. That's okay as well. Okay. Just looking at numbers. We seem to have lots of people in the first half of the alphabet here as well. Okay, if you are standing up and doing, just take a short walk now without changing anything, just thinking about that situation in your mind. If you can stay on camera, great. If you need to walk away from the camera, that's also fine. If you can see somebody that's doing this, then watch them as this happens. If you can see them walk, this may not work that well on Zoom, but we're going to go with it anyway. Okay, so just, you've walked off camera. Now that you're there, hopefully you can still hear my instructions. Think of an animal that has all the characteristics that you need to deal with this situation. Okay, whatever animal you want, it can be anything you want. And with that animal in mind, I invite you just to walk back to your chair with that animal in mind. Okay, do that now. Okay, and then come and take a seat back down. Okay, it is just a bit of fun. I can see some giggling going on there, Nikki. That's great. Okay, So if you were watching somebody that you could see clearly, what did you notice in their body language changing? Now, most of the videos that I can see turned on are watchers rather than walkers, so I'm not quite sure how many people were walking there. I could see Nikki walking around, and I could definitely see this kind of more winding movement as you came back to the chair. So I'm not sure what animal you were, but it seemed to have some kind of, I don't know, flow to it. And again, if you were being an animal and you're happy to share which animal you were, stick it in the chat box just now as well. Karen's just said you felt more serene as you did that. Lorianne said more relaxed and energized. Nikki, an eagle rising above it and getting a new perspective. Yeah, so that's that kind of soaring flow that you had there. So yeah, sometimes just doing something, again, to think, oh, I need a new perspective on this, takes quite a brain jump to think, I'm an eagle soaring. Some people find that easier to jump into. Okay, we're going to try it the other way around. So if you were a watcher, you're now going to be a doer. If you were a doer and you turned your camera off, turn it back on again, just so I can A, see your faces, and B, well, so that you can see other people as well. So same instructions. Thinking of a challenge that you want to do. If you're watching, just pick one person on the screen to watch. Think of a challenge and just walk around or take a walk away from the camera as you think about that challenge. Okay, and just notice, you'll see lots of people kind of head down looking at the floor, quite a slow pace of lots of people that I'm observing there. Great, fabulous. Okay, pause for a second where you are, and then just bring to mind an animal that has everything you need. Iris, I can see that. Is it a monkey? That looks brilliant. So bring to mind an animal that has all of the characteristics that you need to sort this shit out right now, to deal with the situation, to cope with it better, and bring that into your walks. Again, I'm not asking you for an impression of the animal, but just an essence of that animal. So Andrea, I can see the fists going as you kind of walk along there. Brilliant. Okay, good. And just channeling that animal, bring it back to your chair with you and take a seat. Fabulous, thank you. And again, I'd just be interested if anyone would like to share the animal that they were and what characteristics it brought to them, then I'd be happy to hear about some of those in the comments. Linda says a lion. Yeah, lion's a really common one I get in this session because it's got that kind of power, that power about it, that kind of slow, ponderous, I'm in charge here, don't mess with me. What else do we have? A bison. I think that's the first bison I've had, Andrea. A panther, yeah, another lion, says Jeanette. Fearless, yeah, that feeling of feeling fearless, that you can cope with anything. A puma, a horse, yeah, and sometimes these are some common ones coming out. I often get surprised by people kind of going, oh, I was a bumblebee and I just need to kind of buzz around and get on with everything that I need to do. Or, you know, people come up with, I had one that was a sloth once, that, you know, on the face of it, sloth doesn't seem that resilient, but actually that's what that person needed, that kind of slow, ponderous, I'm just going to take my time and get to where I need to get to in my own time. So it will be different for everyone. What else do we have? A unicorn, national animal of Scotland, did you know? Unicorn, anything is possible. Iris, yeah, I saw your monkey there, an optimistic monkey, brilliant. And Debbie, a big, quiet elephant, yeah. So the animal that you choose will be so different depending on the situation. And as I say, about 50% of people will go, thanks, Kat, but I am never doing that again. You're crazy. And about 50% of people will go, actually, that's a really easy way for me to jump into a different state without having to go, oh, what does a person with more resilience feel like? It's just, I need to be more lion or more horse or more bear or whatever in this situation. So I will leave you to make that choice as to whether you're going to use it or not. Linda, you were in the 50% that says it's good. Brilliant. Oh, a dolphin swimming with the flow, Maria. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me just check on the time. It's 2:20. And I know we're finishing in about 10 minutes time. So I'm going to open it up now actually to questions and thoughts, comments, anything. So for this, you can either put your comment in the chat box, or if you want to, Cash, is it raise hands? Yeah, Cash is nodding and giving me a thumbs up. So you can use a raise hand reaction function, and then Cash will either invite you to take yourself off mute, or you'll be able to take yourself off mute. I'm not sure how we're set up today, and you can ask me a question in person. And Cash is going to help me just monitor what comes in. Just reading Lucy saying she was a spider, determined, persistent, focusing on many strands. I like it. Be more spider, Lucy.
Just to say, Kat, that to again repeat that again, that if you use the reactions to raise your hand, because not everyone can fit on my screen certainly, and then that puts you to the top of the queue, and then I can put you on screen if that's what you prefer, or you can ask your chat in the ask a question in the chat.
I think I've stunned them all into silence, Cash.
We're getting lots of love the animal exercise. Nikki Masson did a me too. Joe Johnson said thank you, Kat. I had to leave now. John Armitage has got a question. I'll put you on a screen with Kat. Hold on a second. And
Hi, John.
Thank you. Hi. I thought I'd ask you a question because it was the one that came first to mind for me. The thing you started with was the positions we're in, the poses we're in, and the way in which our body then speaks about our internal state. And I was curious about the ways in which you enable those that you work with to overcome the resistance to changing body postures. You know, as is testament here, it's not easy for us to move in ways that we're not used to moving, and whether that's a way that is, you know, moving like an animal, like a spider, which I thought was a great one, or whether it's moving in a way that doesn't reflect maybe an ongoing state, an ongoing mood that we're in. What are the ways in which you enable people to overcome that kind of resistance?
Yeah, all sorts of different ways. That's a brilliant question. Thanks, John. So part of what we've done in the session is I've thrown loads of different things at you, and people will go, I love the power pose, didn't like the animals, or love the animals, didn't like the power pose. So giving people options can be useful. As I mentioned at the beginning of my session, part of the way that I coach is to take people out into nature. So rather than being sat in an office or a cafe or over Zoom or whatever, it's taking people into the outdoors. They're already getting their bodies moving, and I might encourage them, whether it's linked to directly to the session or not, it might suddenly be oh, look at that view. And everyone kind of goes, oh, that's a really beautiful view. And they change their breathing and they change their posture, even though I'm not kind of going, right, now stand in the posture that makes you feel better. It's that kind of appreciation of nature can help do it. That physical feeling of walking, the forward momentum can really help with that change of state as well. That feeling of stuckness, if you're feeling stuck and then you're talking and you're sat down in the same place, that might not be as easy to get unstuck than if you're physically moving forwards and walking. Of course, there's lots of NLP exercises, things like anchoring, where you can help somebody access a memory of a time that they felt that state. That will help them to get into that state as well. You know, take yourself back into that moment. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel? So doing an anchoring process with them. Sometimes, so similar to the animal thing, rather than thinking of an animal that's got those situations, it might be, well, is there someone else in your life you can model? Do you know somebody that has got a lot on their plate, but it just looks like they've got their shit together? What would they say to themselves? How would they walk? How do they hold themselves? So it's just kind of, I guess, judging somebody's, or working out what somebody's comfort level is with jumping into something a little bit wacky and a little bit strange, like the animal exercise, or, you know, thinking of someone they know, or thinking of another situation they can model themselves in. Okay, so you're finding it really stressful at work just now, but if this happened in your home life, if this was your toddler that has said this to you, how would you react? What would you do? That might be different than if your boss says it to you, but actually my toddler is my boss at the moment. So they're kind of similar situations. It's just helping, using all of your flexibility as an NLPer to help somebody access a different state, whether it's one of the ones I did or you know, something completely different. Use your flexibility and all of your imagination, I guess. Thank you, John. Any other questions, Cash?
Yeah, we've got another question from Tony. Can you give us an example of a client who over a period of time has changed patterns as a result of these kinds of tools, moving from becoming a more resilient person, not just changing state in the moment? I'm always interested in real life and ongoing change.
Yeah, brilliant question. And again, I guess with coaching, it's hard to pinpoint it was this one thing that I did. It might be anything out of a session or sessions that I did that helps people change over time. One of the things I do is run NLP courses. I start with the 4-day diploma and then build up to a practitioner course. So I often will see clients over a period of time, the sort of students on my courses. This is day one kind of material that I do on my diploma that will start people thinking about how they can change their state more generally and how they can coach others to change their state. But at the same time, because it's so experiential, they're starting to do it themselves. And with kind of reminders throughout the session, if they have a sort of coaching practice and they're not feeling very resilient, then I will just remind them, you know, can you do something to manage your state just now? And you'll see them go, oh yes, okay, fine, I'm going to be an elephant now or whatever. And you can see it happen over time. And I would say the vast majority of both coaching clients and training students that I've had, you can see that change take place. Now, whether it was something out of this particular session or whether it was something else like a NLP presupposition that got them thinking differently. And we haven't looked at longer term resilience today, but some of the things that you can do to help your resilience longer term is to change your mindset. So the NLP presuppositions, the beliefs of excellence, are fantastic for that, just to help you think differently about the challenge. You know, my favorite ones for resilience in particular are things like there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So, you know, what learning can I take from this situation? One that often helps when people aren't feeling resilient is there's a solution to every problem. So, you know, it might be in brackets, I just don't know what it is yet, but even the mindset of there is a solution and I'm still working to find it puts you in a far more resilient mindset than, I don't know what the solution is, I can't even understand the problem just now. So some of the NLP presuppositions have really helped me. One that I had, I've just been through a really big buying a business and moving house kind of process. The one that I had, it's not one of the official beliefs of excellence, but it was just trust the process. They want to sell it, I want to buy it, trust the process. And that has really, really, really kept me going through the last, well, it was January we viewed it and we moved in 2 weeks ago. So it's been a while that's been going on. Can't remember what the question is, but that was what the answer was.
Just a couple of things to just round it off. The exercises underline somatic intelligence from Judith Delosi's work. Karen's asked, how do I remember to do this in the moment, like breathe, and it also messaged me to say it's we can answer that if we have time. And Magnus has just said thanks for today, as have many people, Kat.
Brilliant. It's just to answer Karen's point, remembering to do it in the time, it's the kind of thing that comes over time. So the next time something happens, you'll forget everything I've just said and will react the same way you did. And then afterwards you'll go, damn it, I could have used one of those things that Kat went through. The time after that, probably the same thing will happen, but you'll remember more quickly. And then the time after that, it might be that you go, oh yeah, I can take a deep breath, but you're already halfway through dealing with it. Just each time you remember, practicing, as John just says there, each time you remember, it might happen sooner till eventually you're at the point, and it might happen next time it happens that you go, right, deep breath, come on, I can do this, let's do this, and come up with a power pose or something. But practicing, remembering to do it, and if you don't remember to do it in the moment, then think about, well, what could I have done? Because then that gives you more chance of doing it next time. Brilliant. I think that is it for me. Cash or Karen, I'm not sure if you wanted to say something just to round off.
So thank you so much, Kat. Just reading some of the comments, learnt such a lot in a very short period of time, and these useful reminders, even as seasoned NLP professionals. I think it's really important to remind ourselves of these situations. And I know, you know, I mean, I messaged Cash partway through to say, oh, those power poses, they actually use those on Grey's Anatomy, would you believe, which I know is just a fictional story. However, for these surgeons to be engaging in power poses is just another link to these things have, but you know, they do have merit. So thank you so much, Kat, for an amazing session. I've really enjoyed it, and I think everybody else has here from reading the lovely comments. Just a reminder, this will be edited and it will be added to the ANLP website onto the recording section of these webinars. Not webinars, are they? They're virtual workshops. So thank you again, Kat. It's been such a brilliant session. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you.